Hey friends, it's Jason McKenzie, and welcome to the very first episode of the Man Down Project. I know, just what the world needs, another freaking podcast, right? But I'm going to start one because I've had one in the past, and I found it to be a really good way of just getting to talk to cool people I might not have otherwise gotten to talk to, and maybe helping people at the same time. So this is actually as much for me as it is for anybody else, but let me tell you what the podcast is about so you can decide whether or not you actually want to listen, right? So it's called Man Down, the Man Down Project, and it's straightforward conversations for men on grief and growth and getting through life's hardest days. And so, my goal here is if I can help even another man, but let's say men, just not self destruct because they were never taught how to handle pain. Like, if I can make an impact like that through, or me or one of the guests make an impact on someone like that, then this will be worth it. And again, it'll help me too. So, for anybody that's been reading my Substack or following my TikToks, you obviously know my backstory. And for anybody that's new, I'm going to just tell it to you really quick so you get to know me a little bit, but also understand why the Man Down Project is actually so important to me. So in 2010, I lost my first wife, Cindy, to suicide. She was a mother of my children, the biological mother of my children. And it was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. And it wasn't just her suicide, it was the 5 years leading up to it, which were just a, chaotic downward spiral, watching a vibrant, beautiful, accomplished woman just self-destruct to the point where she had nothing left, no fight left in her, and had just reached the limit on what she was capable of handling when it comes to pain. And I don't judge her about it. I mean, I bore, I got to bear witness to what she went through, and I've often said I don't know if I had gone through that level of inconsolable mental anguish, if I ever would have been able to last as long as she did. I have no idea. Um, that took a huge toll on me, understandably, but at the time, I didn't know anything about grief. I thought grief was something that weak people did, while strong people like me, took care of the things that needed taken care of, because the world does not stop turning when someone you love dies. That's just a reality. It's one of the things that can make a devastating loss so difficult. So I did what many, many, many people do, especially men, is I drank. I drank my pain away without ever actually realizing that's what I was doing. The entire time I was drinking for the close to 5 years after Cindy, my first wife's death, I drank a ton. And it never occurred to me that my experiences with her and her suicide and my drinking were related to each other. And it wasn't until I stopped, you know, let's say I stopped under duress from my current wife. Thank you, babe. And I started grieving her death, like 6 months, maybe 6 months later after I started drinking, or after I stopped drinking, rather, I started grieving her death. And that was a powerful, powerful experience for me, because what it did was, first of all, I started having all these thoughts and emotions that I had been suppressing, which were extremely uncomfortable: sadness, regret, shame, you know, anxiety, all these things and I did not understand what was happening to me until my amazing wife told me, "Hey, dude, you're grieving, man." And when she said that, it just sounded so true to me, but it had never crossed my mind until that freaking moment. And I remember thinking, like, wow, I just never thought I needed to go through this process. And going through the process was difficult and painful and all of those things, but it actually led to some really meaningful growth. It helped me come to terms with the past and stop looking at myself like a victim. It started allowing me to help people in ways that I hadn't been able to, by sharing my story. Cindy was a cop, so working with first responders and those things. And my life actually ended up going down quite a different trajectory than it probably otherwise would have if these things had never happened. So, Cindy's illness and death was a tragedy. I mean, somebody is dead, and these little girls lost their mom. I mean, it's tragedy. And at the same time, something can be a tragedy and there can still be incredible gifts that come from it. You have to look for them, and sometimes it's really hard to do that, but they're always there, and so as I look for these, I learned to look for these gifts, and I saw that Cindy's death ultimately contributed to me becoming a still deeply flawed, but just an overall better person, just more compassionate and empathetic and more willing to learn and grow and really trying to, do my best to help other people, which was really never something that was a priority of mine before. And so, and then 13 years after Cindy's death and almost 3 years, just over 1,000 days from the since the time from the time I'm recording this, my 19-year-old daughter, Chloe, died. And she died in a car accident. She was drinking and driving. She was 19 years old. She died, wasn't wearing her seatbelt. She died. She almost killed 4 other people. Thank God they all survived. I mean, not to diminish it, it was a horrific and a tragic, situation for everybody involved. And, um, you know, the thing is, at the end of Chloe's life, she was dealing with what seemed to me to be the exact same mental health issues as her mom was dealing with. Cindy's suicide just shattered Chloe's soul in a way that she was never able to recover from. And by the end of her life, that trauma and those demons, and they had just made her life become completely unmanageable. She was living on her own, and we were all incredibly worried about her. And yeah, it was hard, really, really hard. And then she died, and then died in the way that she did. And it's been really, really fucking hard, in the 2.5, close to 3 years since she's died. And I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about grief and about resilience, and just about how painful loss can be. I mean, losing my wife was incredibly painful, for sure. Um, and in a way, though, her suicide wasn't a huge shock. I mean, it was a shock, I suppose, but it wasn't like it was out of the blue. She had been deteriorating for a long time. She had suicidal ideations before. She'd been locked, like institutionalized, locked up, and like a locked psych ward because of that. So, I mean, it's not like it just came out of the blue. It was still a shock, but the loss of or at least, I don't want to speak for anybody else, but the loss of a child has been next level of pain. And I'm getting through it, though. It's really hard. I've wrestled with, like, addiction issues have come up, again, since Chloe died, and which I'll talk lots about. I mean, I'm not certainly not trying to hide it um, at all. I mean, I write about it and talk about it frequently, and I think that's really important that we shine a light on these things, because, man, we're all human, and we all have a limit to how much we're able to handle. Which is actually one of the things that I want to do with this podcast. Is I want to teach us, myself included, like to teach us skills related to resilience, to be able to more uh, ably adapt to and overcome the challenges that are thrown in our way, right? So I want to talk about resilience, and I've noticed that my resilience, I mean, it has really strengthened since where I was all those years ago when Cindy died. And so I want to pass some of those things along, because as painful as it is to lose a child or to lose anyone that you love deeply, I certainly don't want to create a hierarchy here. I'm really just sharing my experience. But as painful it is to lose someone that you love deeply, it is possible to heal. Maybe you don't ever look the same, like things don't ever look the same, but it is possible to move forward. I think of it like that Japanese art of kintsugi, and maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't, but it's basically like you break pottery, and instead of chucking it, you repair it with, like, gold flake, etc. And so you repair it, and it's different, but it's beautiful in a different way, right? Because you've reassembled it with this gold flake, etc. And so I think of grief like that, in the sense that, like, my daughter's dead. if you're listening to this, you might have lost someone you love deeply, or someone might have lost someone, but she's dead. So my life is never going to look the same or look like what I imagined it. But at the same time, it can still be beautiful. It's just be different. And part of the healing process is trying to figure that out. What does that actually look like? How do I find, meaning and purpose and beauty and even find something that makes life worth living for? How do I find that, right? After I've lost someone? Well, that's what this podcast, these are the conversations I want to have, right? Because I see, like, both in myself, but I see in all the people that comment on the things that I write in the TikTok videos, all of the things, like I see so many things people do to allow them to move forward. And I also see tons of things that people do that keep them stuck in hell, keep them stuck in pain, keep them stuck in a place where the only way they can connect to the loved one that they've lost is through pain. Right. So, and again, there's no friggin' judgment here, man. Like, I've been in all these places. I might find myself there again. I'm not trying to present myself as any kind of expert. What I'm trying to do is be a curious person and bring people together, like to have conversations where I can use my genuine curiosity to help them ask the kinds of questions to help them share the best of their experiences. Because at the very least, if it's a guy sharing his experience and how he's been in the pit, maybe that'll help you feel less alone. And maybe if it's someone who's got some, like an expert of some sort, or someone who has some skills, then that'll be a way for you to take what they're learning and try to apply it in your life. Now, one of the things that I promise you on this podcast is that I'm a simpleton. So I try to think of, like, what is literally the smallest thing I could do right now that might make some kind of difference. So sometimes what we do is we think of, like, we're hurting, we're, deep in grief, there's pain everywhere, everything looks black, we can't see a way forward. And the idea of, like, going from this place of pain and darkness to, like, some kind of meaningful life, it almost seems out of the question. It's so different from where you are that it seems overwhelming and impossible. Well, for me, again, being a dumb simpleton, I try to think of, how do I distill things down to, like, the simplest friggin' thing I could do to take a step forward today. So you'll notice when I talk to people, I'll be looking for those kinds of things, because for me, that's what works. I would rather, my good buddy Jake Herbert is a U.S. Olympian, and one of the things he said to me many years ago that still resonates with me is consistency compounds. So I would rather, take many small incremental steps that feel more doable, maybe less risky than, sitting around and trying to plan the perfect, like, big move forward. So it could be, so as I do this podcast, those are the things I'll be looking for. Also, I will do my very best to create the space and the container and the conditions, let's say, where the people I'm talking to can share their stories. This is not the Jay show. I want to practice being really, really curious and creating space for them. I often think of Sean Ryan. I don't know if you listen to his podcast, but I really admire the way he really gives his guests a lot of space and doesn't interject or try to fill, like, awkward silence. Because a lot of times people will be saying some of these things out loud for the first time, right? So it might take them a minute, to organize their thoughts. So my job is really to help them feel safe enough that they can do it, that they're willing to do that, but then give them the space that they need, and the respect that they need to be able to share their story in the way that makes the most sense to them. Okay, so I'll try to fade into the background as much as possible. And that's basically it. So there's no master plan for this. There's no, it's not therapy talk, it's survival talk, like, there's no, I'll figure this out as I go along. I mean, I kind of want to create a space where men can stop pretending that they're fine and start learning how to handle pain without destroying themselves and the people they love. I've been there, right? I would like to stop that. So it's really just going to be real talk, real stories, real tools to help man get back up, stronger, wiser, and more connected. That's it, right? So life is long, man. There's lots of challenges, whether you lose someone you love or not. Grief shows up in all kinds of different ways, right? Because grief is really just, it's the process of coming to terms with a loss. That might be, it doesn't have to be a death. It could be a spouse getting injured and the loss of the life that you thought you had had. It could be the loss of a pet, the loss of a job, any kind of change that maybe you're not ready for or challenge that you're not ready for, and that is causing you, discomfort and pain and resistance. Like that's why we're here. So grief is, again, not just about necessarily losing someone you love. Of course, that is a part of it. So what I really want to do too is like increase grief literacy. Like, I don't know if I love that word. I probably hate it actually, but is to help men understand grief better so they can get through it, get back up, and move forward and grow through the process. Okay. Because again, we ultimately have the choice as to whether we stay stuck in misery and whether we move forward. And a lot of times we don't know that we have that choice. And we actually don't fully understand the depths of the misery we're experiencing because we're either doing things to try to cope with it, drink it away, distract, or we stay in that place for so long that we forget what a regular, beautiful, meaningful life actually looks like. Right. So that's why I'm doing this podcast, is because losing someone or something that is deeply, deeply important to you is one of the most painful experiences a human being can face. And there are fucking million ways to make it worse than it already is. I've done them all, pretty much done them all. And sometimes it's still a fight not to do them again. Right. So my goal here is not only to, again, share stories, learn some skills, become more resilient, etc. But it's also, this is a judgment-free zone here. Okay. So it's to also recognize and help you see that even if you're hurting, and even if you're doing shit to make it worse, and even if you feel shame about those things, you don't need to do that here. Okay. There's no judgment here because, again, I have fucking been there. I've been there. Okay. So, and I want to help you and I want to help myself make sure that we never end up there again, and that we move towards a better place. So that's really what the whole idea of Man Down is. Again, I'm winging a little bit, winging this here. So I don't have some master plan. I'm just going to talk to cool people, record it, and publish it. And if it becomes, we'll see what it becomes, and I'm always open to feedback to make this better. And if you have guests that you'd like to recommend, please do. I would love to talk to amazing people about their stories, about their losses, and about the lessons they learned by overcoming them. Okay, so that's it. Man Down, welcome. Thanks for being here. And I am super excited to see where this goes and to see how this might help me with my mission of transforming the face of men's grief. All right. Thanks so much.